Hey dear, do you like war?
No.
Do you like games?
Sometimes.
Do you like the War Games? Episode 50 of Doctor Who? Wow, that was a good segue. Anyway, what happens in episode 50
I'm not going to tell you
Games?
how I feel about the War Games until the end of the episode, Gamb. You know how this goes. We practiced this plenty of times.
Tell me what happens in episode 1 of the War Games. Out of 10.
So, I'm going to preface this real quick to everybody listening. There are 10 episodes in this. I took as few notes as I could, because there's a lot to talk about, and if I wrote down
what happens in this.
Every single thing, we would be here for like 3 hours, recapping
Thankfully, it's not
the entire episode.
Thankfully, it's not one of those long episodes where nothing happens. Like, a lot happens in this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to start out, it's like a hypersensitive to light intro. It's real good. It's great. It's awesome. There's war-ravaged land. The TARDIS is in mud. It looks like Earth. The Doctor thinks they're in World War I. Then some bombs go off. People are scared. A lady finds them, tells them to leave. They're in no man's land. If you don't know what no man's land is, it's the area in between where two trenches are, and basically nothing can survive there because it will be shot.
Yep.
Yeah. There's some men in some gas masks that take them hostage. They're German, but then the car is taken back by the British. They drive off, they go to a base, we see a general talking, and we know he's a general because he has a good mustache.
Ooh.
Everyone climbs into the trenches. They call in and say hi, and the Doctor just wants to leave, and tries to leave, gets shot at. The TARDIS is in no man's land, so that sucks. Crew shows up, and the Major's like, what the fuck are you doing? They also think they're German defectors. Also, back at the base, Major says, I'd like to talk to them. And then we see him radio over secretly to the wall, reporting all specimens. The Major, meanwhile, thinks that they're spies, so they need to report to him. The General is known as the Butcher. That sucks. The crew is brought in. The General seems to be gone. The Secretary sort of seems to be, like, in on it, but not really. He's just kind of confused. Then there's a case of someone not remembering where the nurse is from. She doesn't remember, or how this soldier got here. He doesn't remember. And Major gets a call, and the General wants them at base for inquiry. Everyone hopes the General's really nice, and the Secretary goes, hey, where were you? And he was like, I was asleep. And the Secretary's like, yeah, you were asleep. And then the Major and the lady show up, and the General does more brain fucky-wucky for a bit, and then the crew are brought back in, and they're being court-martialed because it's martial law here, for some reason. And the General won't listen to him. Jamie is being charged with being a deserter, and espionage for the others. Death will be the result. Although Zoe is going to be sent off to a prison camp instead, because you don't kill women. The Doctor asks some questions, but they aren't allowed to answer them. Jamie isn't allowed to talk. The Doctor thinks something's wrong. The General does more brain wishy-washy with his glasses. Now they're all guilty. Zoe is sent to 10 years in prison, while the others are to be killed at dawn. The nurse wants to look after Zoe, though, so she does. And then the Doctor heads out, and the Doctor asks the guy how long he's been. He's just like, I don't know. And then, meanwhile, the General is given the cell keys and has a nap. And then Zoe wakes up in the middle of the night and goes to check on the General, and he's gone. And she finds his wall radio thingy and his keys, and then goes to break out the Doctor and find Jamie, but they're caught. And now it's dawn, and they shoot him. We were lying about the 10-episode thing. It's only one episode.
It's only one episode. The Doctor's dead. That's the end of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Woohoo!
The podcast is over, dear. How do you feel?
Fuck! Finally!
Sorry, I was kidding. The show isn't over. That was just the end of episode 1. Yeah, we're welcome to the War Games. This is I love this episode, but also I never recommend this episode because it is 10 episodes long, and it is only for those who like Doctor Who. I will say, like I said earlier, this is one of those long ones where stuff actually happens and it's interesting, and there's actually an interesting element of mystery that actually throughout a lot of the episodes you're like, okay, maybe this specific scene isn't that interesting, but, like, the overarching plot, like, there's something going on, and there's even a small part of you, I know, was like, what is going on? Even if it was a tiny, tiny amount, and the rest of you was going, oh dear God, I'm going to fucking kill Gamb.
Mm-hmm. It's true, that was most of me.
Yeah, honestly. Fun fact, this was also technically the lowest rated episode in the show's history until after the 1986 hiatus, when it got unfortunately cancelled in 19... Well, and then brought back for a little bit. Don't worry, it's a long story. Technically, this episode did, but also didn't. A single episode had 3.5 million viewers, which was the lowest amount, but overall, the actual episode was fairly consistent with the rest of the Second Doctor's final few seasons. So, yeah. What happens in episode 2, dear?
But also he wasn't shot. Another dude got shot, and they go after the person who shot, and Zoe frees the doctor. The general is talking to a radio, and then there's noise happening, and someone walks in, and he's like, you didn't see anything? And he's like, I didn't see anything. And then he whooshes away in a weird thing that sounds weird and similar. But also Jamie wants some breakfast, meanwhile. And then Jamie runs into a redcoat who thinks it's 1745 and he can't remember anything. And the doctor and Zoe steal a military car by telling the driver that they sent for him and just being really confident. The redcoat talks about mist and then he time traveled. And the only person Jamie would ever connect with, apparently, is now talking to him. And the major at the prison is having some tea and the doctor barges in and pretends to be an examiner. Nurse and soldier are looking for the doctor, and the nurse is like, man, they should get away. And then the redcoat pretends to try to kill Jamie, then they fake it, and they run away together by escaping, and then there's more talk about mist with the nurse. The doctor's looking at records, asked to talk to a prisoner, but then they call and mention that he escaped, and apparently one of them was shot, and the doctor's like, I really want to see him, and the doctor's going to make a full report. And then he's like, no, I'm going to call the general. And then Zoe hits him with a vase. And then they're stopped at the door. Again! And the doctor is told that the redcoat and someone comes in with the gun. It's the soldier. Nurse is apparently covering for the doctor. Also, Zoe tells them about the general's wall TV. And Nurse pretends that the general called and he's really far away and needs the major to leave and come see him. And then they come in and show the video screen, but nobody can see it unless they concentrate. And then the general sees that someone is on his radio, and they get caught and says the general asked for prisoners again, and they fuck off. And now the general's back, and his whoosh, and talks to the major, and he's realizing he was lied to. And now they find the ambulance and want to fire artillery on them and kill them. He uses glasses to tell them to kill them. And then the doctor and them drive a lot and hit some mist, and it's weird. And the nurse is like, no, I can't do it. But then the doctor takes over and they just fucking drive. But there's no war here when they get out of the mist. That's weird. And then they see some Romans running at them.
And then that's the end of the episode?
Yeah.
Okay. Fun fact. We got a lot of fun facts with this, by the way. A lot of fun facts.
Mm-hmm.
So, the ambulance that they used in the episode was actually a real First World War ambulance, and the nurse actually drove it herself. It was actually her driving it, it wasn't a stunt driver. So it's like, ooh, a little bit of authenticity here. They had some First World War stuff lying around. Ooh, fancy. Ooh. A lot of stuff happened on the set in the World War I area, but we'll get to it in future episodes, because there's 10 episodes, so I have to space out the fun facts that I've got. A lot of them are to do with, the end of the episode, surprisingly. But, originally, I was about to say Admiral. The general was meant to be speaking in a cold voice, a cold monotone voice, when exercising the sort of mind control thing that he was doing. Mm-hmm. But the director was like, hey, what if we just gave them, like, hypnotizing spectacles instead? That would be a better thing for a visual medium, huh? Like, you think about that, you fucking writers? Yeah. Anyway, what happens in the next one, dear?
They get the car going and back it up into the mist again, and they go back to their time. The map they're given is crap, so they need to go back to the dude's room, and they need a map that covers all time zones. They get back to the base and the general's room. Maybe it's in the safe. Blow it up time, but actually don't. We're gonna pick the lock, but instead let's use this grenade, which he takes apart, puts in the lock. Major gets his mouth free and he's like, help! And then a dude comes in to say, hi, I found these ladies. What was that help? And they're like, don't worry about it. And then the grenade goes off and the dude's like, the fuck? And then they take him hostage too. And the doctor finds the map and now they know where to go. And while driving, they get surrounded by Germans, drive off with them, they're taken again. The Germans want to know who he is. They think he's a spy again. And they tell the truth about where they met in space, in Scotland. And he's like, you're crazy. And then he demonstrates the sonic screwdriver to prove that he's from time and space, and he's like, oh shit! I don't care at this point. Not today. Another dude with a sick scar comes in and asks what the fuck is going on, and he puts on a monocle and brainwashes him, and they're spies. They're gonna be shot again, and Scar Guy also has a cool radio. The doctor goes, hey, I'll show you I'm a time traveler. Again. And then Jamie gets a gun, and they do the screw thing and run away. And meanwhile, on the future place, the British and German generals talk about shit in this weird room, and Leader asks them to be brought in alive for more interrogation. The crew decides to head to the American Civil War, and drive around, headed for that blank space that they need to go to. And then a tree is dropped in front of them, and they all work together to move it. And a lot of people are getting shot and beaten up, and the Confederates are coming for them. And apparently, the generals are planning some shit to fuck around, and the soldier character is captured, and he's to be reprocessed. Then Jamie and crew take shelter in a barn because the car's broken. They need to keep going, but they're gonna rest first. And then there's a whoosh happening again. That's weird. And they hide, whoosh. And they see someone whoosh, and the doctor wants to go inside the box that whoosh is in. And Zoe goes in the ship, and Nurse and Jamie accidentally don't go in the ship and are left behind, and that's the episode.
Oh no! You are fucking driving through.
Mm-hmm. I need to fit 4 fucking hours of watching Doctor Who into at
for those
least
who haven't
30
realized,
minutes.
This episode, watching 10 episodes, is 4 hours. By the way, Sonic Screwdriver was used again. Another fun fact about it, this is, again, one of the only times that the Sonic Screwdriver is used as a screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
Like a flat screwdriver, as in, like, screwing screws. The first was in Fury of the Deep, where it got introduced, and we saw it. And now it's here, where it's to unscrew a screw in a gun and screw it back in again.
Woohoo.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic stuff. It gets a little bit more science fiction-y from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
That's putting it mildly. Anyway, another fun fact that I'll give you right now is that World War I was actually a real event that happened. What happens in the next episode, dear?
Is that seriously your fucking interesting fact? Is that World War I really happened? I'm so sick of you. Oh my god.
What happens in episode 4 out of 10, dude?
No! We don't get to skim over this!
What happened in episode 4 out of 10, dear?
Oh,
you're the one being like, I gotta fucking hurry, because it's too much 4 hours of
yeah, you know what I was doing? I was driving the car really fast, and you know what you did? You pushed a tree in front of me that I couldn't stop. You also cut my brakes.
So I pushed a tree and cut your brakes? I can't do both at the same time, dear.
No, it wasn't at the same time. You were set up for that. You thought about it.
You're lying. You're lying to me.
You thought about it, and you cut the fucking brakes, and then you were like, hey, you know what else happened? World War One was real, and that was the tree.
Okay, here's another fun fact then. The Civil War, the American one, also was real.
Jamie and the nurse are captured, and Zoe finds some weird glasses that look cool.
Who are they captured by?
That doesn't matter. Going inside, they find a whole bunch of mindless-looking Germans hypnotized. Also some Romans. This is the Doctor and Zoe.
By the Union.
They are. The whooshy lands again, and then out comes a bunch of Romans, and then it takes off again. That's weird. And then they think that the Union thinks they're spies, and they're gonna fuck them up. And then the Confederates find them, and they do a shooting, and then they let them go. And then the Fed...
Dear, they're Confederates. They don't just do a shooting, they do a rootin'
Confederates find them and untie them, and then they go talk to the German general who's now here. Then they're brainwashed.
He's not the German general anymore.
And then look back at the ship. Mutton Chops is upset about the resistance that's happening. His name is Mutton Chops through this entire thing. About something about...
Okay, real quick. German leader... It's very clearly the same character, but you see, oh wait, he's also the leader of the Confederates, and he's doing a southern accent now? What's going on?
Oh, that's weird.
Okay, keep going now, talk about Mutton Chops and how much you love him.
There's some students...
Hey, your favorite character is almost about to be introduced.
There's some students learning things, and then the German guy calls in and goes, hey, we got two of them. And Doctor is like, hey, I want to fuck with the controls of this mushy thing. And then they land, and the Doctor made it somewhere. And
Ooh.
Then the Confederates are gonna shoot the Jamie and the nurse, apparently, and then a black soldier frees them. And I was really excited for a little while. And then they all run away by
He was your favorite character. Did you ever get his name?
Once, and then I kind of forgot it for a little bit, then I remembered it again. But I don't remember it right now. It's like Hurley or... It starts with an H, I know that. We'll get to it. Then they all run away for being shot.
It's Harper!
But the black soldier is caught, of course, and brainwashed, but it doesn't work on him! Ooh! And...
Oh, wait. The brainwashing didn't work on him?
No, it didn't. The Doctor and Zoe, however, are noticed on the ship. Aren't noticed on the ship because they have the glasses on, so they join a lecture. And, what?
Are you okay?
What?
Are you okay?
Carstairs is brought forth to be tested on and brainwashed again. Carstairs almost recognizes the Doctor and Zoe. And the Doctor makes it very obvious, don't give us away. Signal microwave machine put around Carstairs' head, and a zoopy noise happens, and oh no, he's brainwashed.
Dear went to take a shit and was like, I need to take a shit real quick, can you just write notes for me for a few seconds? I was like, sure. I wrote I didn't realize you were calling him the Lieutenant.
Okay.
His name is Lieutenant Carstairs.
Okay. That makes more sense. I was very confused.
My apologies. I'm sorry I wrote more accurate notes.
How dare you? He doesn't know he is in an alien place, but he thinks it's 1917 and it's the war, and, the one of the demonstrators asks the audience who he is, and he says they're all brother soldiers, and alright. And he's basically back to soldier ways, and basically says those dudes are German spies, by the way, not students, and the nurse is captured by...
He calls the Doctor and Zoe the German spies.
And the nurse is captured by Confederates, but then Jamie fires him. And...
Oh no, Jamie fires him?
Wait, and nurse is captured by Confederates, but then Jamie fires him.
What? Are you okay?
No.
Are you okay, dear? I'm serious, are you okay?
They're captured again! Soldier is taken away, and the doctor is like, what? And the Doctor goes, hey, this piece here is fucking with the soldier. You're fucking up. You can't deprocess them, can you? How would you do that if you did? Show me how this works. Jamie and Nurse are brought back to the black soldier who is currently tied up, and talk about how shit's all fucked up. And he talks about he's in the resistance, and then the German guy comes up and he's like, oh yeah, tell me where they are then. but then suddenly a whole bunch of Union come in, but actually, no, it's soldiers from every time period. It's the resistance. And then the German...
Do you know what time periods?
World War One, the Civil War, the Croatian War, the French War, the Mexican Independence War. I don't care.
Fun fact, dear. All of those are real wars.
Gamb! The doctor goes, hey, this piece is fucked up. Jamie the nurse are brought back. Then it's the resistance. The German dude is captured. Then Mutton Chops comes in, asks what the fuck is up, and they point out the doctor, and he goes, oh! And runs away really scared, and they chase him. Soldier dude escapes. Zoe is found by the soldier, but then held at gunpoint because he's brainwashed, of course, and he must shoot her, and then that's the episode.
Oh my god, he begins to pull the trigger on her.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to shoot her. So, okay, we're talking about fun facts.
Uh-huh.
So, fun fact.
What?
I'm sorry. Okay, so one scene called for the regulars to hear an explosion and then dive down. Patrick Troughton wanted to know how big the explosion was and insisted on a demonstration in order to figure out how dangerous it would be, etc. And as he did, a huge boulder landed right where they were to be standing. And as it did, Patrick Troughton turned and said, see, this is why I wanted to know what it was like. Because if they were standing there, they would have fucking died. Yeah, so he nearly fucking died. Another fun fact about the First World War battleground set, it was actually a rubbish tip in Brighton that had previously been used in another war picture. Yeah, which leads to some actual problems that they have during filming, but that's my lead-in, that's my hook for you to get through the next episode, dear, so I can explain what the problems were. What happens in the next episode, dear?
Why are you so excited?
Because this is a really good... Because this is where Doctor Who goes from just another kitsch science fiction show to a show with some depth in it. Some more depth and, lore to it. Keep going. Episode 5.
Uh-huh. The science teacher comes in and says, hey, don't kill her, please, we need her, but his gun is apparently empty, so that sucks. Then teacher comes up and says, hey, do what I say. He says, okay, and then the German dude is angry and captured. Resistance is waiting for someone to show up. The one soldier is like, what machine? I don't know what you're talking about. I want to go home. And then a man shows up and wants to shoot the German before they leave. They stop him. Another man walks in and breaks up the fight. Black soldier is apparently named Harper. Also, Jamie catches a German trying to use the radio TV, stops him. Zoe is brought in for questioning into the hypno room where a man puts on a... It's basically like something you put on to mess with jewelry, but we're not gonna worry about that. She's forced to answer some questions, where she comes from. He's like, you're lying, and makes it hurt more. She talks about the TARDIS and shit. Doctor's running around, finds soldier being programmed again. He convinces teacher that they're looking for the girl, not him. Tells him to talk about the plan. He's like, you know the plan. And then also watches soldier get deprogrammed. And he's like, he'll remember everything when he wakes up. Because we're gonna deprogram him before we reprogram him. And then he pretends to tie him down. And then soldier recognizes the doctor, blows the whole thing, and then they shove the teacher in the chair and reprogram him. Jamie's trying to figure out how the radio video works. The whooshbot comes in. German wiggles free, manages to send an emergency beacon. Mutton Chops asks questions about Zoe and seems to expect something out of the ordinary. The doctor finds Zoe, and soldier dude fucking knocks a dude out while the doctor wakes up Zoe. Zoe talks about the weird headset. The doctor tries it on, sees pictures of people and stuff. There's apparently resistance members in every area. He wants to organize them. The Doctor is going to try to get back now to do that. Meanwhile, the emergency signal is still happening. Some security guards are sent. Doctor tries to follow him, and the box whooshes into the barn. Harper is fucking killed, because of course he is. We just learned his name. And then the guards are caught. Mutton Chops is arguing with some shit, and Dude asks how he knows him. More arguing. Then please just go to the Warlord with complaints and capture the girl if you're gonna be a piece of shit. Jamie wants to go use the box to head back, and Russell is like, no. And Nurse wants to go, and Russell goes, okay, well, no woman's allowed to go, so I'll go, I guess. Go fix my men, you're a nurse. And then they whoosh away, and the German dude's happy about it. Someone finally finds the teacher, and they talk about time travel, and how it was a truth machine, and Mutton Chops decides to handle things himself, and makes some orders. And the Doctor is waiting for a box, which shows up. It's Jamie, and then most everybody is killed. Jamie's dead. That's the episode.
Jamie's dead?
Yep.
Shit. So, the World War I set, as I led in, it was overrun with rats. This upset Patrick Troughton immensely, because so much so that he actually threatened to quit on the spot if he saw a single rat again. It was later revealed because the reason was because it brought back some rather unpleasant memories of his wartime experience where he had rat shooting duties. Which is like, oh, yeah, that was kind of shitty that they didn't think about that. Whoops. Yeah, it's kind of fucking awful. A lot of this episode was also kind of filmed at the same time as the previous episode, The Space Pirates, which, fun fact, doesn't actually include the Doctor and Co. that much. It's more of a space western with the Doctor and Co. just sort of on board for the ride, which makes sense because the two episodes were filmed almost in tandem. There was overlap in the filming, which is why they don't really appear much in that one, and while they're a lot in this one, because fun fact, this was a very expensive episode. Anyway, what happens in the next episode?
Jamie's shot. The Doctor and Zoe and Soldier all run away to the processing room. Teacher and the guy are talking about how they're from time and space. The fucking war chief is like, he's a Tim Lord, and I am too. And teachers to reprocess people and look for weird stuff while the Doctor tries to do stuff to a wall. They reverse polarity of a piece wall and peek in of them mind-reading Jamie. They find stuff in Jamie's brain, so they take him to the security chief, but Mutton Chop shows up and gets angry. Then they move into the room, make a sassy joke, and meanwhile, German is at gunpoint but wants water, and Jamie's being truth-rayed. Mutton Chops comes in to hear about what they learned from Jamie and wants to hear about it, and Doctor and them wake up the resistance and group together, trying to take the processing machine with them. It doesn't work. Gun idiot gives German man his monocle back because he asked nicely for water. Jamie wakes up and is saved by the Doctor. They leave in outfits of military descent. They dress up as the military, and they go to the box moving area, and then guards run towards them, and they put up a force field and knock out the remaining two that got in. Then they send off Zoe in a box and that one leader, and then everyone else sticks around. They swoop back into the barn with German guy, and he orders them to shoot Russell. He gets the shit slapped out of him, but now the German guy has a gun, but then he gets shot by the kid who was an idiot, so he's dead now. Mutton Chops and security chief are arguing. He blames Mutton Chops. The Doctor has gotten to the reprogram machine with some gas-filled valves, throws one of them to escape, and runs off into the whoosh box, but then it gets stopped from taking off, so he's like, I'm gonna overwrite it. And then Mutton Chops activates dimensional controls instead, so the entire box basically starts to shrink and kill them, or try to kill them. That's the episode.
And it succeeds, which is the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So, fun fact. Remember how I said this episode's kind of historically accurate? It's also inaccurate. Because in the 1917 war area, the German soldiers are seen wearing spiked helmets. But those helmets were out of use in 1916. So how could they be wearing them in 1917? Checkmate. This episode is not historically accurate. It's bad now. Another fun fact for you. You know the machine that they're in? The thing that you're calling the whooshy machine?
Yep.
They're called... You probably didn't catch what they're actually called. They're called side rats. Spelt. It's an acronym for Space and Intertime Directional Robot All-Purpose Transporter. Have you figured out what the acronym is yet?
No.
SIDRAT. It's TARDIS spelt backwards.
Fuck this show.
What happens in the next episode?
This show is bad.
This show is bad?
This show is bad. You should feel bad for liking this show.
I'm sorry.
You should be.
I guess we're done here.
So they try to reduce the dimensions of the box, but the doctor gives up and comes outside. And he's like, more gas! Turns up the dimension control... Wow! I am just... Turns up the dimension controls, takes off, and they can't stop him, because he stole a piece of their magnets. Follow him to 1917s, they say. And then he's like, actually, Jamie, we're going anywhere but 1917. And then suddenly... Warlord, not Load, dear, Warlord arrives from the home planet. Warlord is here now and approaches the security officer and they talk about what happened. And then they're back in the Roman area and they're being yelled and chased again. Woohoo! More security chief arguing with war chief and Warlord is like, stop it, you kids. Don't make me turn this around. And the doctor and so on head into the mist barrier and they're doing good and they head off to World War I again. They're spotted instantly. The general's told about it. He wants to use a machine gun on them. But the resistance run up and stop the machine gun. But actually the doctor's still caught. Soldier tries to tell some people that the general is not human. But he's just like, nah, I'm human. Brainwash. And he's like, okay. The doctor is to be killed again. And the general calls in, sorry, one's dead. And the doctor's got the machine. And so if he's killed, then whelp. But then we hear some gunshots and it's the resistance. War Chief is like, bruh, did you get the machine? No? Okay, well, deactivate the area controls then. But then the general gets killed. This machine has something to do with time barriers. The doctor needs a base to work from, so they're like, we're gonna stay here. Finally, the doctor hits a switch in the base and the shooting stop. What they do? They're in the mist now. They can't have anyone come in or go out that is processed. But everybody that is in the resistance is good to go. The doctor deprocesses the one guy that got in. He seems okay and very French. But then the box whooshes in to the general's room. It's some guards. And they take the doctor in the machine for processing. And that's the episode.
That's the episode?
Yes.
Everyone's dead? So, fun fact. Lady Jennifer Buckingham, the nurse, as Dear has been calling her, was the producer's wife at the time. What do you mean,
What would you like me to say?
Instead of, Okay, maybe don't. Actually, don't.
Okay.
Don't.
Just say the shit you want to say.
I don't want to say anything.
Okay, fine. Podcast over.
No.
Okay, hurry up then.
So the reason Terrence Dix, the writer and script editor of the series, claims that the reason this story came to be written was that after the Space Pirates, there was supposed to be a 4-part story and a 6-part story to finish the season, but both of the projects collapsed. So instead, they decided to close the season with a 10-part story and asked Terrence Dix to write it. However, Dix knew he wasn't experienced enough to do it by himself, so he asked Malcolm Hulk, who is a longtime friend and mentor of Dix, to write it with him, which is why you have 2 writers on this one. Fun fact also, this is an episode of Doctor Who. I'm kidding. Episode 3 features a weirdly rare moment of internal dialogue. You can hear the Ward Chief's internal thinking of, like, time travelers, I wonder. It's like, you don't really hear internal monologue in Doctor Who unless it's externalized a lot. But, okay, that's a weird fucking thing for certain. Also, Zoe originally misidentified the meaning of TARDIS as time and relative dimensional intergalactic ship. But then they fixed it. Said it properly, because Zoe's not dumb. Also, Jennifer Buckingham was supposed to be present when Jamie and others got ambushed, but by the time Part 6 was delivered, it had already been decided that Jennifer would not be included in the second half of the story. She would not be allowed to return. Which is why you get that weird moment of, like, we need men, we need people like you tending to our wounded. Go off screen for a bit. Yeah. Also, all the unnamed resistance fighters were intended to die at the end of Part 5 when they get ambushed. A lot of the unnamed ones were meant to just die, not, stay alive. But they decided to change it, which I agree was a better choice. I think it's better to have them around. Anyway, what happens in the next episode, dear?
They want to call another box and blow it up, but that would destroy too much of the area, so they're going to use a machine gun. Time to interrogate the doctor, though, and he's ignoring the truth ray, so what you gonna do? Zoe knows everything that they need to know because she memorized it, and then they want to interact with all the resistance leader, but another box shows up, and then some people die, but they throw a grenade in, and it's gone, and it's good. Jamie is now in charge of the base. While What's-His-Face leaves, the war chief shows up and asks if they're trying to kill him, and he goes, it's that one dude's a Time Lord, to be honest, and the doctor is taken to the war room, and they talk a bit. Apparently, the doctor left and stole a TARDIS, and they talk about what's happening. The aliens want to conquer the entire universe. Human beings are horrible, so we use them. Back at base, Zoe's asleep and the Mexican resistance comes to meet them. It's Arturo. Jamie's gonna get shot. They need to talk, so they have an idea. And then they basically talk to him through her. And we have to get everyone home by defeating everyone, so let's go there and beat them up. I know where they are. We gotta find the best fighters. Everybody's gotta fight each other. And the warlord walks in on them talking, and the doctor has agreed, supposedly, to help destroy the resistance. Warlord liked that. Security man did not. The meeting is happening, and everyone here is planning on the attack, on how to get in the magic box. Here's the plan we're doing, and then they destroy the computers in the Roman area. So it sends a box that way. And then next in the Crimea era, and they send a box that way with some guards. Almost done. Once they're done, there basically won't be any guards left at the fucking area. Now to the barn, and the Spanish troops make it there first, ready to wait for something. Mutton Chops is arguing with security chief about how going to Civil War era is a trap. They want to use a neutron bomb, but the crew hasn't really figured it out.
Neutron bomb.
The doctor calls over saying, hey, I can send a time machine right now, but only for a couple of men, and then a box whooshes in, and it's empty. So only one of the crew really kind of stays behind from the Crimea period, and then everybody else whooshes away. And the doctor's like, let's go to the war room. Actually, you're surrounded. Ha 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 ha! That's the episode.
So, while we were watching the German characters speak in one episode, Deer was like, I don't think that's real German. Like, it kind of sounded like gibberish. Turns out Deer is a fucking liar. It was real German.
It's hard because they very much so did not have a German accent.
Translated, they say as follows. Von Weich, who I kept nicknaming Colonel Klink, says, who are these people? What's going on here? And the lieutenant is like, we have here 3 English civilians, Captain. They told me they come from another time in a spaceship called TARDIS. And then Colonel Klink goes, "They are English spies. We must detain them. I will speak with the German about it. General German. Whatever. Fuck this bit. It fell apart." Ironically, episode 8, like I told you, was the least watched episode of Doctor Who of all time up until 1989. It was also arguably the most important episode in the show's history, as it was one in which the Doctor first described himself as being a fugitive from his people, the Time Lords. The first episode where there was actually, like, some lore and depth given to his character and the existence of the show, which is kind of funny. Also, fun fact, when this episode aired in the US by PBS, all 10 episodes were edited together in one single omnibus format edition, with a running time, commercial-free, of about 4 hours. However, at least one station in Warsaw, Wisconsin, aired this story in 2 parts, the first part lacking closing credits, and the second part lacking opening titles. Imagine being a kid watching this for 4 fucking hours on PBS. I would love that. What happens in the next episode, dear?
They take away their guns and they take away everybody. Security wants to take away the Doctor. War Chief doesn't. Doctor wonders why the Time Lord needs him. Something about a TARDIS. The boxes are apparently TARDISes, but they might shorten the time control unit lifespan. The boxes are going to be useless. They need the TARDIS. Everyone is in the reprogramming room and arguing. The Doctor is lying through his teeth about joining the Warlords. He also offers to fuck with the time machines and make them better. Warlord isn't headed to the home planet. He's waiting until shit's over. They're going to reprocess everyone after the Doctor makes the machine work on them. And now everybody wants to fight the Doctor, so they do. Security is apparently recording everything that the Warlord talked to, or the War Chief talked to the Doctor about. And then the Doctor's like, there was a bomb! And then guards come in to help them out. And security dude learns that the Doctor isn't working for them at all. War Chief is shitty. Jamie is quote-unquote brainwashed, and the Doctor is ready to do everyone else. And the Mexican army leader, of course, can't fucking pretend. And he's like, you didn't do anything, I'm going to attack you. And he's dumb. 2 guards show up with the mutton chops, and they take the guards hostage. Let's go to the landing bay, stop the time machines. They don't know I suck there, so let's go. They take over the war room with guns. Security chief tries to get a gun, but then is killed by mutton chops. Doctor wants to send everyone back to their own times, but there's only 2 machines left. That's not possible. He might call in the Time Lords, though, so he puts some cards on the floor, does a summoning circle, it makes his box, which then contains information about everything here and a plea for help. Oops, the war chief is gone. 2 guards of Steve Jobs stop him, though. And they kill mutton chops finally. Steve Jobs is Warlord. They kill mutton chops finally.
Steve Jobs is the Warlord, who's the big bad guy of the episode, by the way.
He rolls down the ramp.
He looks like Steve Jobs.
Yes, he does. He even has like a turtleneck going on. Everyone continues down to the landing bay and take it over. The Doctor needs to leave, though, because they'll find out where he is. The Doctor heads for the moving cube right after he calls the Time Lords and tries to run really fast for the TARDIS, and it's all in slow-mo. But then he trips and falls, of course, and maybe can't open the door. We don't know. That's the end of the episode.
So, fun fact, it's not just any sort of box that the Doctor makes. It's called a hypercube, and this concept actually comes back in the new season of Doctor Who as well, and also extended universe stuff, of course. But it's to elaborate further on it, it's a Time Lord concept wherein a Time Lord places their thoughts into a box and they're able to send that box away towards other Time Lords. So essentially he's calling for help and explaining the situation to them. So also the director came up with the idea of the Doctor sending a plea to the Time Lords in a small box. I have no idea what the original concept is, but I really like the idea of a hypercube. He also suggested the war settings, which would be interesting to the viewers, based on advice from his young son. So he was like, hey son, what World War atrocities do you know of? What ones do you think would be interesting? And his son was like, I want them to learn about the Crimea War. And his son was like, how do you fucking know about that? And he's like, I know more than you think. But yeah, it's, again, this is like, love it or hate it, this is one of the most important episodes of Doctor Who. But yeah, what happens in the, next episode, dear?
In the last episode.
The final episode? You did it, dear!
They can't seem to move a time force field. They can get into the TARDIS, though. They get in, they go up to the console, the field's in here too, the TARDIS tries to swoosh away, and they're like, why did you run away from them? They're your people. And the Doctor was like, I was bored. Stole TARDIS to go look around. Doctor apparently gets too involved, so that's the problem. And then the TARDIS is landing? That's weird. Impossible, even. And then the TARDIS starts to sink. Look at them fish, and it's also leaking. And the defense mechanism is breaking down from the Time Lords. They're in space now, because they moved there. Suddenly a voice calls in and says, return to TARDIS, come of your own accord. And then the TARDIS flies to Florida.
Yay!
And they
Florida.
try again.
Oh no, Florida.
And yeah... the controls are now moving by themselves now, though, and they're back on the Doctor's planet. Time to go have our trial, I guess. Oh. A man in a onesie leads them away, off to a trial with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is basically told he's evil, and then the Doctor is his witness for the entire situation. Steve Jobs tries to incriminate the Doctor, that he collaborated with the war chief, and he's like, no, I didn't. And then a new box shows up, and it's the guards from the war games, and they kill some dudes. And the guards rush in and have everyone at gunpoint, steal the crew. They all go into the TARDIS and want to go back to his home planet, but then the Doctor pushes a button and it was really bright, and they run away. And then there's a force field around them and their planet, and they're guilties, and they can never leave to go do war stuff. So bye, back to Apple. Jamie and Zoe aren't allowed to leave, though. Time for more trials. The Doctor says he's proud of fighting evil and being justified, so he shares his brain thoughts to show the evil he's killed.
Wait, you're not even going to explain what happens to Jamie and Zoe?
They're stuck at the TARDIS behind a thing.
Okay, good.
They're
I was about to say, you just like Jamie and Zoe. Also, by the way, okay, anyway.
They think the Time Lords are gonna think about their decision and will recall the Doctor when they decide. And they're like, okay, Jamie and Zoe, time to go home without the Doctor. And they're like, no, I want to talk to him. And he's like, okay, you kids. And so he's playing cards. And they lower the force field. And Jamie and Zoe just want to run away. And the Doctor's like, no. But then they try to book it for the TARDIS. And they make it, but then the Time Lords are like, ha, get fucked, say goodbye. And so they do. And everyone is sad. And apparently they will forget everything but their first adventure with him.
Yep.
We see Zoe going back to her normal life and kind of remembering him, but not really. Jamie wakes up in a field, almost gets shot by a redcoat, then fucking murders him. The Doctor will be also let go, but also he will be sent to Earth in exile for the 21st century. He won't remember the TARDIS either until they say so. Also, his appearance is going to be changed. And so, because he can't decide on what he wants to look like, they force him to change. And that sucks. And he's like, no, I don't, are you making me giddy? I don't want to be giddy. And then he swirls away into the screen, and then that's the end of the episode.
Do you know what giddy means? It means, like, dizzy.
Oh.
That's why he was spinning around. And he's like, you're making me giddy!
Giddy also means, like, happy and perky, so... That's why
I'm pretty sure he actually said dizzy, but I was trying to be nice.
Fine.
Anyway, a little bit of fun fact real quick before you wrap up your thoughts. The 5 faces that were proposed to him were drawn by the story designer, Roger Chevley. The one deemed too young by the Doctor is not shown, unfortunately. None of the faces also resemble what the actual Third Doctor looks like, because the Third Doctor had not been cast in the role when the production had concluded on the serial.
Yeah.
So, whoops.
Whoopsie.
But, very quickly, this is where I need to go into a thing called a fan theory called Series 6B. So, fun fact, they actually kind of allude to this being true, in a lot of ways, but the theory of season 6B is thus. We don't actually see the second Doctor regenerate. We just see him starting to regenerate by the looks of it, and then we see the third Doctor in the next episode. So it's like, we don't actually see the transition between the two. The theory goes as such.
Mm-hmm.
The time that we are seeing, there is actually a whole chunk of time missing between there, where the second Doctor works for the Time Lords and a organization that I'm not going to get into right now because it hasn't been introduced. We'll get into it when we talk about the fourth Doctor. He works for them and does odd jobs all around the universe, doing sort of things here and there, which makes sense with a whole heap of multi-Doctor stories that the second Doctor takes part in, because the theory explains a lot of things, like the third Doctor has a lot of items that the second Doctor didn't have, and it's like, how could he have gotten these between him leaving like the end of this episode and the start of the next episode? Like, it's not possible unless something happened in between. So it's a common theory, but in canon, they've alluded to it being actually true quite a few times, and have given it a lot of evidence, especially in the newest season, accidentally, I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure Chris Chibnall does not know about season 6B. But yeah, I thought I'd bring it up because it's a really fun, interesting thing, because also it came about because there was an entire year gap between the two episodes. So between this episode and the next episode, there was an entire year gap. Whereas every other episode between Doctors, it's like, we get to see the transition and that's it. Okay, next Doctor. Or it's the end of the season, but we see the transition, so it's like, okay, cool, next Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where it goes. Between that gap also, you have the weekly comics that were going on in like I can't remember if it was like a newspaper or just a comic type thing, where, because like they were like every week the Doctor was on a mini comic adventure, but they hadn't had the third Doctor yet, so they just continued doing adventures with the second Doctor. So it's like, wait a minute, how could the second Doctor continue to have adventures if he's meant to be doing this? So it's like all these little things that add up to this theory called Season 6B. If you're interested in it, I highly recommend you look into it, because it's a really, really fascinating theory. And it is really interesting to plug holes in a lot of areas where they didn't really care about. It's a very fun aspect of fans coming together to fill in what are essentially plot holes. Like, minor plot holes that don't fucking matter at all. Like, oh, why does the third Doctor have an item that the second Doctor doesn't? It doesn't fucking matter. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. But like, hey, let's make it matter. Let's find out a reason for why. Okay, dear, tell us how much you hated this episode.
I don't know, 7.5.
Wow, okay. Well, is that leaning more towards a 7 or leaning more towards
7.
an 8? Okay.
It's so long.
I'll be honest.
I wasn't bored or anything. It was so long.
I'm gonna call that a fucking victory, because I said if you give this a 6 or more, I'm gonna be happy, so I'm fucking happy. But yeah, that's the end of the second Doctor. And also, dear, be happy, that's the end of incredibly long episodes. The longest an episode is from here on out is 7 episodes long.
That's still too long.
Don't worry, they're interesting. And they deal with racism. and the concept of indigenous land rights. So, look forward to that, and we'll see you next week for Spearhead from Space. Do you have anything you want to say, dear?
No.
Okay, well, goodbye, and may the Force be with you.